Hello everybody, welcome back to Fanblade. This is the first in a occasional series of Q&A videos. Some people have watched the videos that I did of making that bass guitar, and they've asked me some questions. So now, I'm going to answer them. Andy asks, the humbucker has one screw on one side and two holes on the other. Is there a reason for that? Well, thank you for your question, Andy, and I'd never even considered it. Let's have a look at this. And indeed, we have two screws there and one screw there, and I'd never even noticed, I'd never even thought that was odd until he asked the question. But it does bear thinking about. Why have they done it this way? I've got a couple of ideas. When you have a pickup that's got two screws, one on either side in this case, then you've got a pivot point, and the pickup can move around. You see this all the time on humbuckers if the pickup surround isn't matched perfectly to the pickup, or if the screw mounting holes are worn, or there's a bunch of different things that can cause this. But yeah, so having two screws is not that good. Oddly enough, just next to it here, we have a pickup that is mounted very, very firmly. I can't move that one, whereas this one's just going all over the place. So having three screws gives you another contact point. But why not four? Well, to the garage. Here is a stool with 4 points of contact, and it wobbles. And it doesn't matter which way you turn it, it's always got that little bit of wobble. Unless you jam something inside under one leg, and then it'll wobble the other way, probably even worse. Getting 4 points of contact to touch evenly is actually pretty difficult. What you really want is three. This is a drum seat. They make drum seats with 3 points of contact because drummers have to sit on stages that are usually made in about 15 minutes out of old beer crates and pallets. It's an uneven surface, and with 3 points of contact, doesn't matter how uneven it is, that third foot is always going to land on something, and you're always going to be seated nice and stable. That's why they make drum stools with 3 points of contact, cymbal stands with 3 points of contact, and mic stands with 3 points of contact, and guitar stands with 3 points of contact. In fact, the guitar stand is an interesting one. They double up. You've got contact with the ground here, here, and here, and contact with the instrument here, here, and here. So that's one of the reasons why they may have chosen to do this, is that 3 is just more stable than 2 or 4. Andy also asks, if the bass has active pickups only, what can be done to have passive mode as an option? Well, quite a bit, as it happens. There's really only two types of pickups. There are active pickups and passive pickups, and then there are active preamps. Now, the circuitry that I put in the bass that I built is completely passive. There is no battery, there is no transistors, there is no ICs, there are no chips. It's just a cap for the tone knob, and that's fine. I never need to put a battery in it. This bass, however, this is my old favourite Cort Curbo, which came with a Bartolini pickup and Fishman preamp. I love this bass, played it for years, played it to death. I've done all sorts of horrible things to it actually, but it still lives. Very hard to kill. Made of plastic as well, it's made of luthite. Pretty weird stuff. All this wood is just painted on, but it's got a circuit in it. So let's take it apart and have a look and see what we can learn. The main question you have to ask yourself when you're discovering if a bass is active or passive is ask yourself, where are the transistors? Because any preamp circuit, that screw doesn't want to come out, any preamp circuit is going to have transistors in it. Anything that needs to be powered by a battery is going to have chips and ICs and all sorts of things. Now, I know in this base, all of that stuff is on a circuit board which just happens to be attached to these screws. You'll see it in a second. But sometimes what they do is they hide all of that they hide all of that circuitry inside the pickups and then epoxy it all together so that you can't get at it. And those pickups need 9 volts to run. You cannot run them passively, they just won't work. If, however, you've got a separate circuit board to the pickups, then in theory, all this is doing... Ha! I've just seen that. That says Funk Cortec right there. See if I can get that in shot. Everyone needs some Funk Cortec in their life. Yeah, so, where was I? The circuitry is essentially a preamp. Preamps come in lots of different types. You have guitar preamps, bass preamps. You also have microphone preamps. You also have phono preamps for your for your record player. And what these things do, they really actually should be called a preamp amp. A pre-amplifier amplifier, because it is an amplifier in its own right. It's just not powering speakers like a amplifier would power a speaker. But what this is doing is taking a very, very quiet signal from a magnetic pickup of some description, for example, a guitar pickup or a microphone or a record player cartridge, and just makes it a bit louder so that the final amplifier can actually do something decent with it. So it's a preamp amp. What we're going to try here, because we've got all the circuitry here, and that's running on 9 volts. That's, all these transistors and everything, that needs the 9 volts to run. I've never tried with this bass to run just the pickup. So let's try that and see what we can learn. What I'm going to do is run some alligator clips. I'm literally going to tap straight off that's ground. Actually, we'll use black for ground, shall we? Seems like the better choice. And that'll be live. And I suppose I'd better take the battery out of here because I don't want to short anything out and run the risk of actually blowing the circuit up, because it has happened before. At one point, people who know the Cort Turbo bass will know that this is not the standard output jack. I had retrofitted an XLR plug in here so I could have a DI out directly out of the bass. I went to do an acoustic gig in Wanaka. This is 10 years ago. And the sound guy said to me, "Oh, you just plug your bass directly into the desk? Fine, no problem, excellent, nice and easy, no amp required." Put me through the foldback speakers, and it was great. Except that this is designed to run on 9 volts, and I had plugged directly into the mic signal of the desk, and he had put the phantom power on and sent 48 volts shooting straight up into my preamp and killed it dead, fried the whole thing. So this is actually a replacement, a replacement part, which I was lucky enough to be sent by the good people at Kerbo because, Cort licensed the Kerbo design, so Cort made this, and they sent me a replacement because these basses come with a lifetime guarantee. Sweet! Regardless of how badly you screw around with them. So let's have a think about this. That is attached to that, that is attached to that, and here is a jack socket. That's connected to ground, so that's that one. That's connected to live, which will be the tip, which will be that one. Right, let's plug that in and see if we get any sound. Not a thing. Let's try tapping onto. Let's try tapping onto this connection here. I think we're getting something off that. I'll just go turn the amplifier up. I would expect it to be very, very quiet. Nope. We're getting a whole lot of nothing. Okay, let's just check that I haven't actually completely stuffed this. Get these out of here. Let's prove that this is actually working. Okay, so that's fine. Oh well, that's a bust. What we've got is a pickup that is only going to run on 9 volts. And it's relying on the circuitry as well. What I have found in the past is that sometimes the preamp circuit board itself contains all of the circuitry. It's not designed to go in conjunction with anything else. All it is a boost and an EQ before going off to the amp. So you've got a little bit more onboard control with your knobs. I did have one of these in for repair not that long ago. I wish I'd kept the parts because I could have shown them to you. But the bass had taken a hit at some point with the knobs hard soldered onto the circuit board, which is absolutely the worst possible way you can do it. But hey, the bass was an Ashton, so we can judge as badly as we want. The bass had taken a hit. The knobs had taken a hit and had broken the circuit board. Now, in that case, I was able to get sound directly out of the pickups, and I simply took one look at the quality of the circuit board, thought, well, this bass is better off without it. Took it out of the circuit, threw it away, replaced the knobs with standard guitar wiring type circuitry, and away she went. Granted, it was quieter. The output was lower than with the active boost. But it did work, as opposed to it not working at all with a damaged circuit board in it. So, in answer to the second point or part of your question there, Andy, if the bass has active pickups only, what can be done to... I'm reading it over here. What can be done to have passive mode enabled? Well, if you've got active pickups, such as what I've got in here, actually, recently I put a guitar together, and I don't have the pickups to show you, but I've got the box. Seymour Duncan Duality. These pickups required a 9-volt battery to work, and if you can see on the circuitry here, this is all standard guitar wiring, except for the 9-volt battery. There is no preamp, which means that the preamp was inside the pickups. They will not work without 9-volt battery. This one, the Bartolini on the front of this, will not work without a 9-volt battery. We've just tested that. But sometimes you will find instruments that can have the preamp switched in and out, and that's dead simple. All you do is install a switch like this. You would have a handy thing to know about these switches. You can get these with 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows. You buy a whole big thing of these, one switch, and you can switch 10 things at once. This one's designed for doing 2. But when you were switching a switching between two circuits on a base, for example, an active or a passive one, really what you want to do is to be able to switch the preamp in and out of the circuit. So you've got a pickup and an output. You would want to have the switch to bring the preamp and the battery into the circuit, and then flick the switch and it does two things. That cuts the power to the preamp and also connects the pickup directly to the output jack. So that would be one way of doing it. Of course, your mileage may vary. Not all circuits are designed the same, not all pickups are designed the same, and it's not going to work on every instrument. Check your pickups, basically. Well, there we go. I hope you found that video helpful, Andy, and thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.